Hello and welcome everybody. Today we're at the very pristinely quiet and beautiful OC Orange County Farm and Food Lab at the Great Park. And I'm going to give you a tour, maybe a couple parts of a tour. We're going to see what's around here and talk mostly about permaculture principles that this place has. Areas that are fully permaculture designed are kind of far and few between here in Orange County, California. So this is a rare little gem to have. So this is open to the public, and you can kind of think of it as a community garden in a way that people can just come here and gain knowledge about permaculture and how plants work and food and growing that in the city. A lot of kids come in here. But anyway, let me get going. So one of my favorite parts when we came here is this gourd tube, and these are gorgeous. This is basically an arch. Let me get in here. An arch made out of what's called cattle fencing. So it's pretty good size square. It's not chicken wire. So if you take my hand here, you could see that size of the square and the thickness. So it's pretty strong, and it's got to be pretty strong because look how big these gourds are. I'll stand by this one so you can kind of see me. Hold on one second, I'll turn this around. So these are big gourds. These are, I believe, I'm not really sure. I believe this is a birdhouse gourd. These are, I do not know what these big giant long ones are, right? And then these are some sort of bottle gourd, these other big ones here. And then these are loofahs. So these are the ones that make a loofah sponge that you kind of wash things with. So they're pretty neat. They're pretty big. So this is pretty neat. You could do this with zucchinis. You could grow pumpkins. I've seen watermelons grown this way. This just happens to be one done with gourds. And they do have to protect the roots, the stem, where the stem meets the ground, from probably rabbits. So as long as they protect the main stem, you know, the lower leaves might get nibbled, but the rest of the plant is up and growing. And it's a warm day and it's actually quite nice in here. Gourds are interesting. They produce their flowers at night. So I don't know if there's any open here, but when we came in earlier today, there were these large white flowers open early in the morning. So the gourds have the big white flower and they're nocturnal, as opposed to squash, which typically produce their flowers in the daytime. So that was kind of cool. This is their pollinator section. And I was talking to the manager here, and they are going to be expanding this section. And they have a cute little pollination wheel. You can kind of learn about the different insects that they attract. Well, let's take a tour back here of their banana circles, because the banana circles are really cool. So as we come through here, this is an ice cream bean, a small one. We have dragon fruit on these nice towers. And as we come through here, we have a mixed orchard. We have this is a quince tree, which is kind of unusual. We don't really see quinces. And there's a cherimoya back there. And all mixed in here are all sorts of cover crops. Kale. This is the kale you eat. We have a legume. This is the popcorn bush that we have in our garden. There's also some here. this leafy stuff, not this red stuff, but this larger leafy stuff back there, that's comfrey. I'll show you some more comfrey, and that's an amazing cover crop. Amaranth, which produces an edible grain here, and also edible leaves, as another good cover crop. It's a little mango tree. There's a moringa tree, which is pretty cool. Every part of the moringa tree is edible. Look at these flowers. Moringa is a really cool tree because it's a good chop and dropper. Very fast growing. But let's look at this big banana circle. And I'll show you a couple of them. So you can see how these bananas grow in a clump. And how bananas grow is the stalk, the main stem that produces the bananas, after it fruits, that whole stalk pretty much dies, and then a sprout at the base replaces it. And over time, the center of these bananas die out and they kind of creep out, forming a banana circle, which is a good place for several things. You could hear what they do is they throw compost into those circles and it feeds the banana clump. They could also put a chicken coop in there, or a table or chairs, keep it shady, but usually it's a composting place. Now this whole banana cluster, if I kind of pull around here, there's a swale that goes all the way around this banana cluster. So this mulched path here is kind of the bottom of the swale, and you could see the slope, so it's kind of sloped down and slightly up here. So all this water accumulates in this circle down to the swale all around this banana circle and helps this banana circle grow. They also have the same type of thing going on here with this sugar cane, except we can't really get in there. The inside is a bunch of leaves, and they basically compost it. They also have some traditional row agriculture here. Looks like they're growing some cool beans. They look like they did some Three Sisters back there. There's some corn, beans, and squash with the drip system. So that's a little bit more conventional, but this is cool. As we walk over here, we're going to see some of their stockpiled composts. This is, again, a banana and a dragon fruit area. Nice system for dragon fruits. Bunch of kale. But here's where they're stockpiling compostables. So we have the banana chunks, wood chunks, which will be chipped. That's your carbon sources. And then over here, which looks like carbon, but this is basically all greens, nitrogen, this stuff was harvested when it was alive, so it's a nitrogen source. And it's basically hanging out here until they have time to process it, chop it up, and put it in the big compost piles. But again, really cool grouping here with the bananas in the banana circle. So let's continue on our tour. By the way, dragon fruits, this is one of the few places in the continental United States that you can do a good job with dragon fruit outdoors. At least on the West Coast. You probably could do it in Florida, but in California, this is probably one of the few places that you could grow dragon fruit and also mangoes pretty well. Oh, an ice cream bean. Let me show you. This one actually has the bean on it. The one at our school doesn't have the beans yet, but this one does. Not quite ripe. When they ripen, this will get fat. Okay, let's continue on. This is, I gotta show you this ginger over here. This regular edible ginger. And this nice bed over here because it's blooming, and man, it smells so good. Here's ginger. And these beautiful flowers. White flowers are very fragrant. So they told me that's edible ginger, which is pretty cool. It's quite big. And again, you harvest the roots. This is a canna. Technically it's edible, but it's more of a famine food. But right here is the comfrey. Again, remember that plant I was telling you about, which is one of the better companion plants. You can molt, when this plant, in the winter time, excuse me, this plant dies down and all these big leaves turn into mulch. And it's really, really nutrient dense for your plants. Also has attractive little purple flowers for the bees. It's a good plant. It likes shade. So I recommend planting this around fruit trees or under your larger shrubs. It'll do really good in partial shade. Again, a really good companion plant. They don't use any pesticides here. Pretty much everything is exclusion. So like here's to keep rabbits out. It's all about attracting beneficial insects. Look at the size of these bananas. My goodness. Again, lots of flowers for the pollinators. If you don't have flowers for the pollinators, you're not going to have any production. They also do a lot of crafts. They use this timber bamboo. I believe this is old hamii, giant timber bamboo. But this is a great size bamboo for doing crafts. It's not too big. Look at the bamboo shoots down here. Those are edible. Okay, into this veggie garden. We're walking to this banana circle. This one's a little bit more accessible. Hello. So in here we have our banana circle. I could walk inside here and they're going to be putting compost in here. And you could see they're even throwing big pieces of wood like this big palm, but it's decomposing pretty quick. So a nice thing about these is it's really cool in here temperature wise. So again, good place for a compost bin, a worm bin, or even if you had a small chicken coop. They're doing some watering here.
Are you in class right now?
Yeah, I'm in class, but it's okay though. Hello. We're filming.
Some of your classes like 5 years ago.
Yo, you were a student of mine?
Yes.
Nice. You were here in a
Awesome.
Thank you so much. We were just here doing permaculture class.
Okay.
That's cool that you're a volunteer. Are you working or volunteer?
Volunteering, yeah.
Awesome. One of my students. See, there you go.
And then my sister-in-law takes some of your classes too, I think. Her name's Angelisa.
Uh-huh. I know who she is. Well, what was your name again?
Clarissa.
Clarissa. Well, it's nice to meet you.
You too.
Was it during COVID that we took my class?
No, this was before COVID.
Okay, so good. I'm glad. Because I was like,
Yeah.
that's probably why I don't remember. Because I remember during COVID, I don't remember anybody. Because it was the masks.
So maybe it was more than 5 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Probably like 18. Oh, nice to see. I'm glad I'm glad you're putting your knowledge to use here.
You're like a really good teacher.
Oh,
too.
thank you.
Yeah, you're the best. I love taking classes with you. I
Well,
want to take more.
We'll be back here.
Okay.
I just talked to your manager, and he's like, yeah, let's do some
Yeah.
volunteer. I just found out about you guys like 2 months ago.
Okay, cool.
So that's it. That's cool. Thank you so much. I'm going to continue on the tour. Here's a cool permaculture spiral. So you could see how it kind of starts at the top and it kind of wraps around. This is a really good study of the edge effect, where you value and use the edge, because this circle bed gives you a lot of space. It's in 3 dimensions, upright, so you can get all sorts of little things in there, and it's designed so that you put like the plants that need more sun and more drought, not drought, but more well-drained soil at the top. And as you move down, you get plants that need more water and maybe a little bit more shade. And there's actually even a little pond, a little water collection. So remember, the water starts here, flows down, and it actually accumulates down in there in a little water collection, a covered water area, and that's used, I believe, for wildlife. frogs and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Back in here, they used to have some aquaponics. We're going to talk about aquaponics later. Aquaponics is very tough, so this system is currently not working. But there's many reasons why it might not be working. It's not easy doing aquaculture. Look at that beautiful pomegranate. So we'll talk about aquaculture. It's very difficult to maintain systems, so that's probably why this system was probably abandoned. It was just got to be too much work. All of our fish and our aquaculture systems have died too. So yeah, from personal knowledge, if you don't keep those fish happy, the plants aren't happy. But look at this beautiful espaliered apple. Espalier means it's pruned to a certain way, certain shape. So that's pretty cool. This case, it's flat, so it's pruned in a way so that, let's say you had walls or fences in a yard, this would minimize that space. You could espalier all sorts of fruit trees. Apples just happen to be really good. Again, and they're using a bunch of herbs as cover crops. Flowering garlic, which is really good for repelling lots of pests and also rabbits and stuff like that. Feverfew, really good for headaches. There's another one right here. This is passion vine. This is not the fruiting one, but the cerulean. Well, it does have fruit. Here's the fruit here, maypop, but this is not really the one that people are using to make jam out of. But the flowers, mild sedative, really good for sleeping. Nice rosemary. Check out this little pond. I love this. This is a little pond for habitat. Just enough water. There's skeeter fish in there, mosquito fish to keep mosquitoes down, but some water again for the animals. I love these little tiny miniature cattails. Pretty cool. All right, so here's why we don't use wood. Look at the size of these beams. That's a big beam. Would have been expensive, and that's been completely eaten through. Most of the beams here have been decomposed, and again, in California, particularly here in SoCal, we have a lot of termites, and they're active year-round. So wood decomposes very fast. Plus, it's warm here. So we, for something more permanent, you could use blocks like that, and I'll show you another thing that they did a little later on. Little greenhouse with water lilies. Kind of interesting. I love this. This is a willow arch. So they basically grew some cuttings of a willow on each side and just kind of arched them together. That was probably a fun class project that they did. Back in here is a nice, just a bunch of feral vegetables, which I think is pretty cool. There's a tree tomato seedling, there's tomato seedlings, there's a peach seedling, there's a bunch of butterfly weeds, and over here, just kind of growing in nicely all by itself, is a whole bunch of Malabar spinach or summer spinach. Very good. I like it. It's a good green for the summer. Also can make a dye out of the berries. And then this is Tulsi basil. That's Tulsi basil, which is pretty cool. We're going to walk around this way. Watermelons. Look at that. Here's another interesting permaculture design part right here. This is a keyhole garden.